anyone who was healed was required to offer a sacrifice and bow to the idol of Asclepius and the serpent, the Nachash. Asclepius was said to have healed so many people that Hades, the deity of the underworld, complained to Zeus that he would upset the natural order of death amongst the mortals and challenged the immortality of the deities. For this reason, Asclepius was struck down by Zeus. After the death of Asclepius, he was placed amongst the stars in the constellation known as the Serpent Holder. And according to some versions of this tale, he was eventually resurrected and placed as a deity on Mount Olympus by Zeus. Now, some of this information is not really all that important. I've given you some of this information just to kind of really fill in the gaps so that you understand the history, because it is a rich history. And again, some of this information isn't going to pertain to you today directly to know that there were giant non-venomous snakes crawling around the Asclepian and that people incubated the dreams and stuff. But the reason I want you to understand these things is that people didn't believe that Apollo was just some deity way off in the heavens somewhere. They believed that he was prophetic. Matter of fact, he had a prophetess at Delphi where he would speak through her oracles. She was called an oracle. And, you know, this is all well known. So the worship of Apollo and Asclepius and Hygeia and Panacea, this was a prophetic type of worship. And this is something I also want to emphasize to you, because they were seeking dreams and visions from false deities and receiving them according to their testimonies. So there was that part of it. But then the straightforward, obvious is the poison, the injection. You know, when you think about the poison of a snake bite, and the fang goes into the flesh and injects that poison, it's so perfect that Nachash would mean sorcerer, and that it would also point to pharmakia when you think about it in those terms for these last days concerning the snake bite. If you have eyes to see and ears to hear, you know what I'm talking about. Now in Revelation chapter 6 verse 2 we read, "And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer." This is the classical first of the four horsemen who goes forth to conquer. And it's really important to understand this notion here, because this first horseman, when he goes forth, it says he has a bow. And when we look up this, we know that Apollo was actually the deity of archery. It's kind of interesting. The first rider on the horse has a bow, and Apollo just happens to be the deity of archery. But this is where it even gets even more interesting. You see, the Greek word for bow is toxon, the same word that gives us toxicity and toxic. This word toxon is so called because the aim of the Greek was not to just kill you with the arrow because he hit you precisely in the heart or wherever he may have hit you, but it was so that if he hit you at all, you were poisoned. So there was poison in the arrows. So they dipped it, and there was an arrow, and they shoot it into you, and then it goes into your bloodstream, and it kills you. So the rider with the white horse goes forth with a toxon. He goes forth with something toxic. And he has a crown. The Greek word for a crown is Stephanos, like the word Stephen, name Stephen. But what's interesting is the Latin term, which is the very language of the beast, the Roman beast, is Latin. That's the language. The Latin term for the crown is corona. When you study them, because you see the CDC, when they first announced that the coronavirus was coming, and they made this big article about it, they actually wrote up an article about Helios, which is one of the titles of Apollo. And they show an image of Helios from Pergamos, the same Pergamos where Satan's seat is. You can't make this stuff up. And it's literally all about how the coronavirus is named this because it looks like a corona. For those of you who don't know, a corona is a halo or a helios that goes around the sun. It is the halo or the circle around the sun, the sun's crown, which is why Apollo's crown is called Corona. Why he is often also called Corona, because he is Helios. And remember, he had a sexual relationship with a princess named Coronis. You see all these. Why did the CDC send out this write-up that you can look at the very image? It starts out with the very image of Apollo with his corona crown, and he has 4 horsemen. 4 horses, I should say, not horsemen, on his chariot. He's riding his famous chariot, and there are 4 horses, just like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And is this all just coincidence? This is all just a coincidence? No. Satan deceived the world. The scriptures are true. He used drug, sorcery, or pharmakia, and he's still using it to deceive the world. This is true. You know, Apollo's number, many people don't know this. I'm going to wrap this up with this. For some reason, in the ancient world, the solar deities had various magical squares that were attributed to them. Not just the solar deities, but the other classical planets as well. Magical square amulets to protect you from the deity, because, you know, the deities were mean and they would strike you down. They would, you know, give you leprosy. They would sleep with your wife. They would do a number of things. So you had to have protection from the things you were worshiping. If you were a Greek or Roman or Babylonian, all the systems had it the same way. The heavens were divided into 36 bodies. The sun was number 1, the moon was number 2, on and on and on and on till you get to 36. But the sun was unique because it ruled over all the other heavenly bodies. Therefore, you would add up all the numbers 1 through 36 in the magical square. You can find these online. And they add up to 666. This was the number of Apollo. He was the sun deity, the Helios. The Caesar claimed to be the Helios at times. See, this is what happens. Just like Pharaoh, he claimed to be Ra, the sun deity. So his number would have been 666. Therefore, the Apollo, his number, the corona, the Helios, the halos of the sun, his number is 666. And we know this because Yahuwah said, let he who has wisdom calculate the number of the beast. Therefore, Yahuwah has given great wisdom in these last days to understand these secret matters.